The seat card said grandfather in black letters thick enough to read from the aisle. The name under it was not mine. I stood at the entrance to Ashford High School's auditorium with my right hand inside the pocket of my old navy jacket, my fingers wrapped around a little white box I had carried carefully all morning. Inside that box was a key. Not a fancy key with a remote start or a shiny dealership tag, just the key to a used Honda Civic I had spent 9 months rebuilding for my granddaughter Lily so she could drive herself to college without being afraid of every highway exit between Ashford and Lake Erie. The card was taped to a front-row chair beside my son Brian and his wife Marissa. A small gold ribbon ran across the top because that row was reserved for donors, board members, and people the school wanted in photographs. Grandfather. Graham Whitmore. I read it once. Then I read it again. At 64, your eyes can play little tricks under fluorescent lights. Mine had started doing that with restaurant menus, medicine bottles, and those tiny screws that fall under a workbench and become invisible until you step on them barefoot. But my eyes were fine that morning. Across the auditorium, Graham Whitmore stood with one hand resting on Lily's shoulder while the school photographer told them to move a little closer to the donor wall. Graham wore a light gray suit, polished brown shoes, and the easy smile of a man who had never had to wonder whether a room had a place for him. Lily had her graduation gown half-zipped over a white dress, her dark hair curled at the ends, her tassel swinging near her cheek. She looked nervous and happy and too young to be standing at the edge of the life everyone kept telling her she was ready for. My son saw me before Lily did. Brian's face changed just enough for me to know there had not been a mistake. That is the first thing I remember with perfect clarity. Not the band warming up in the pit. Not the smell of floor wax and new paper programs. Not the folding chairs scraping against the hardwood. I remember Brian seeing me with that seat card between us and looking, for half a second, like the boy who once broke my garage window with a baseball and heard my truck pull into the driveway. Then Marissa turned, followed his eyes, and smiled too quickly. "Harold," she said, crossing the aisle toward me with both hands lifted in that polished way of hers, like she was greeting a nervous donor at a hospital luncheon. "You made it. Made it." As if I had driven in from another county. As if I had not been inside this building more times than I could count. As if I had not sat in this same auditorium for Lily's spelling bee, her winter choir concert, 2 freshman orientation nights, 3 parent information sessions, a science fair, a college financial aid workshop, and 1 middle school orchestra performance where Lily played the same 4 notes on a rented cello and looked at me after every one of them to make sure I was still clapping. I looked from Marissa to the front row card. "Where am I sitting?" I asked. She glanced back without turning all the way around. People do that when they already know what they do not want to see. "Oh, the school arranged the donor section up front," she said. "They had a whole system. You're a few rows back. It's nothing personal. Nothing personal." I kept my hand around that little white box until one sharp corner pressed into my palm. "Donor section," I said, "or family section?" Brian opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Behind him, Graham laughed at something the photographer said. Lily looked over then, and the whole room shifted into a place where I had to be careful. "Grandpa," she called. Her face lit up. That alone kept me from saying what I had every right to say. I slid the box deeper into my pocket and lifted my hand. "Hey, kiddo." She started toward me, but Marissa touched her elbow and said, "Pictures first, honey. We're on a tight schedule." Lily hesitated. "Just 1 second." She came anyway. That was Lily. Even when people tried to steer her, some part of her always leaned toward whoever looked left behind. She wrapped both arms around me, her graduation gown scratchy against my chin, and for a moment I smelled the vanilla shampoo she had used since ninth grade because she said all the other girls were trying to smell expensive and she liked smelling like cookies. "You okay?" she whispered. "I'm fine. You're standing weird." "I'm old. We stand weird for no reason." She laughed, but her eyes searched my face. "What's in your pocket?" I nearly took the box out. I nearly handed her the key right there, under those buzzing lights, with the wrong grandfather card 10 feet away. I nearly said, "This is from me. Not from them. Not from whoever gets the photograph. From the man who taught you how to check your mirrors and keep both hands steady when trucks pass." But Marissa called her again. "Lily, sweetheart. Now." Lily squeezed my arm. "Don't disappear, okay?" I swallowed. "I won't." That was the first lie I told her that day. Because I did disappear. Just not in the way she meant. I sat in the 6th row, left side, for seats from the aisle. Close enough to see the stage, far enough back that no school photographer would catch me unless somebody turned around on purpose. My name was not on the reserved list. A young volunteer with a headset and a clipboard found me a seat after whispering to someone near the stage and looking embarrassed. "I'm sorry, sir," she said. "We were told you preferred general seating." I nodded as if that made sense. People give you a lot of chances to protect their version of events. They put soft words in your mouth. They hand you explanations already folded, and if you are old enough, tired enough, polite enough, you take them. You let everybody walk away comfortable. For most of my life, I did that. My name is Harold Bennett, though most people call me Hal. Lily has always called me Grandpa like it was a proper title, the way some people say doctor or coach or reverend. I drove a school bus for 38 years in Ashford, Ohio, a town small enough that people know which church your grandparents attended and large enough that they pretend not to notice who gets invited and who does not. I drove Route 12 for 26 of those years. Bluebird bus. Cracked vinyl seat. A heater that worked only when it felt like cooperating. Left turn by Miller's Pond. Right past the cemetery. Slow over the railroad tracks because the back row always bounced and some 8th grade boy would always pretend to hit his head harder than he did. You learn families from a bus mirror. You learn which kids run because their mothers are yelling behind them. You learn which children get on quiet after weekends. You learn which houses never turn on a porch light in winter. You learn who waves. You learn who forgets. You learn who shows up in slippers and a coat because their child forgot their lunch, and who lets a child be hungry rather than be inconvenienced. You learn that showing up is not one big heroic act. It is 1,000 boring ones. I was never a big man in town. I did not own businesses or sit on boards. I did not have a name on a donor wall. I had a pension, a pickup truck, a bad left knee, a house Ellen and I bought in 1989, and a garage full of tools arranged in a system that looked like clutter only to people who did not know where things belonged. Ellen was my wife. She died when Brian was 23, before he married Claire, before Lily was born. Ovarian cancer took her in 11 months. She had always been the talker between us, the one who remembered birthdays and sent sympathy cards and knew when someone's casserole dish needed to be returned. After she died, Brian and I became two men standing on opposite sides of the same loss, each pretending the other knew what to do. He married Claire 2 years later. Claire was Lily's mother, and she had a laugh that made you feel a problem might be solvable if you opened a window and put on coffee. She called me Mr. Bennett for the first 3 months until Ellen's sister told her that made me sound like a landlord. After that, she called me Hal and hugged me every time she saw me, whether I knew what to do with my arms or not. When Lily was born, Claire placed her in my hands and said, "She's going to need somebody steady." I thought she meant because babies need steady arms. I did not know she was telling me the future. Claire got sick when Lily was 7, but not in a way people understood quickly. Depression came over that house like fog. Some mornings she could make pancakes, braid Lily's hair, and sing old Motown songs into a spatula. Some mornings she could not get out of bed. Brian worked for a regional insurance office and traveled more than he should have. Nobody said the word help until help had already been needed for months. At first, I picked Lily up on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Then mornings. Then afternoons. Then Saturdays. Then whenever the school nurse called and the receptionist said, "Mr. Bennett, are you available?" I retired from driving buses 2 years earlier than planned. People thought I wanted rest. The truth was Lily needed someone who could be reached. Someone who knew the difference between a child being stubborn and a child trying not to cry. Someone who could put dinner on the table even if dinner was just tomato soup, grilled cheese, and apple slices cut unevenly. Claire died when Lily was 9. After that, Lily spent more time with me than anyone wanted to admit. Brian was grieving, then working, then trying to rebuild his life without looking too long at the parts that had collapsed. Marissa came in when Lily was 11. She worked in development for a hospital foundation, which meant she knew how to make wealthy people feel generous and guilty at the same time. She was organized, pretty, and always smelled faintly of peppermint. She spoke in polished sentences that sounded prepared even when she was asking if you wanted iced tea. I tried with her. I brought soup the first time she had the flu. I helped Brian repaint the downstairs hallway before she moved in. I kept Lily on weekends so they could have time together. When Marissa said Lily needed more structure, I agreed. When she said my habit of letting Lily eat breakfast in my truck was messy, I stopped at the diner instead. When she said high school would require a more intentional support system, I nodded even though I did not know what was unintentional about getting a child to school every day on time. Marissa did not dislike me loudly. That would have been easier. She smiled. She thanked me in public. She said things like, "Harold is such a help," which sounds kind until you notice help is something you use, not someone you honor. Graham Whitmore was Marissa's stepfather. He had married Marissa's mother when Marissa was in college. He was a retired commercial real estate man from Columbus with a lake house, a clean silver haircut, and a habit of calling waiters by their first names after reading their name tags. He was not Lily's blood, not that blood is everything, but he entered Lily's life around the same time Marissa did and quickly learned the power of appearing at the right moments with the right envelope. He gave Lily a laptop when she started 9th grade. I taught her how to drive in the empty parking lot behind St. Mark's after the funeral home next door closed for the day. He donated to the school's scholarship fund when Lily became senior class treasurer. I picked her up from debate practice in sleep because Brian had a client dinner and Marissa had a hospital gala. He sat at the head table at the academic awards banquet. I stood in the back because I had come straight from helping Ray Delgado tow a pickup and still smelled like motor oil. None of that bothered me at first. Not really. People contribute in different ways. A girl can have more than one person cheering for her. I never needed a plaque. I never needed a speech. My father used to say a man who needs applause for doing right is probably doing it for the wrong reason. But my father also said something else. He said, "Don't let folks call it humility when they're the ones keeping you low." I did not understand that part until graduation day. The auditorium filled slowly. Grandparents with corsages. Fathers adjusting ties. Mothers fanning themselves with programs. Younger siblings sliding down in chairs until someone snapped at them. The band played warm-up scales that sounded like a question being asked over and over. From the 6th row I could see the back of Graham's head. He sat in my carded seat with perfect posture. Marissa sat to his right, Brian to hers, and Lily's empty chair beyond them for after the processional. Graham held the program folded across his knee. When Principal Haskins came down the aisle before the ceremony, he stopped at Graham, shook his hand, and said something I could not hear. Graham put a hand over his heart like a man accepting a medal. I looked down at my own program. The cover had Lily's class year in blue and white. Inside, beside the list of graduates, was a page titled, "Special Thanks to Families and Supporters." There were sponsors listed in neat columns. Whitmore Family Education Fund had a whole line in bold. No Bennett. Not Brian. Not me. Not Ellen, though Ellen had started a college envelope for Lily the month she was born and written for books, not shoes across the front as a joke. I told myself not to be childish. A donation is a donation. Schools need money. Graham gave them money. I had given rides, time, meals, gas, winter coats, printer ink, emergency forms, and 1/2 of my heart, but none of that buys new band uniforms. The lights dimmed. A screen lowered behind the podium. Before we begin, the assistant principal said, "We have a short video honoring the family support that helped our seniors reach this milestone." The room quieted. The first images were harmless. Baby pictures. Sports clips. Parents waving from bleachers. A montage of seniors saying thank you. Then Lily's face appeared on the screen. She was sitting in the school library wearing a cream sweater, hair tucked behind one ear. "My family always showed up for me," she said. I leaned forward without meaning to. The video cut to Brian helping Lily hang a college pennant in her room. Then Marissa smiling beside Lily at a scholarship breakfast. Then Graham handing Lily a framed certificate from the Whitmore Fund. "My dad taught me how to keep going," Lily's recorded voice said. Marissa taught me how to be prepared. And Graham taught me that generosity can change a life. People clapped softly. The camera showed a family photo from the awards banquet. I knew that photo. Ray had taken it. No. That was not true. Ray had taken the original. The one on the screen had been edited. In the real photograph, I stood on Lily's left side with my hand on her shoulder. I remembered because Lily had leaned into me that night and whispered, "My shoes are killing me," while Graham was telling Brian about some investment property in Dayton. In the version on the screen, I was gone. Not fully gone. That might have been kinder. A strip of my blue jacket remained at the edge of the frame, just enough to prove someone had cropped me out without caring enough to finish the job. The applause around me went far away. On the screen, Lily said, "I'm lucky to have a family that got me here." I looked at the front row. Marissa's hands were folded, her chin tilted upward in the way she looked when a plan was working. Brian stared at the screen without moving. Graham nodded like a man hearing a truth he had earned. That blue sleeve hurt worse than being absent. It meant someone had opened the photograph, seen me there, and decided the story looked better without me. I did not move. I kept both feet flat on the floor and my hands on my knees. After 38 years driving children over icy roads, you learn that the worst thing you can do when the bus slides is yank the wheel. You breathe. You steer gently. You do not let panic decide the direction. So I sat there. Lily crossed the stage 40 minutes later. Her full name echoed through the auditorium. Lillian Claire Bennett. Claire's name in the middle always caught me. Brian insisted on it after Claire died, and I was proud of him for that. Lily walked with her shoulders straight and her smile trembling. She searched the front row first, naturally. Brian stood. Marissa waved. Graham lifted both arms. Then Lily's eyes moved farther back, scanning. I raised my hand. She found me. Her smile changed. It became smaller and realer. I clapped until my palms hurt. After the ceremony, graduates scattered into the aisles like released birds. Families stood, hugged, blocked pathways, cried into programs. I waited because old men learn to stand last, partly from manners and partly because knees do not care about emotion. Lily reached me before Brian did. "You weren't up front," she said. "No." "Why?" I looked over her shoulder. Brian was coming down the aisle with Marissa close behind him. Graham had stopped to talk to Principal Haskins. "Ask your dad," I said before I could soften it. Her face tightened. "Grandpa." I touched the edge of her cap. "Not today, kiddo." "That's what everybody keeps saying." Before I could answer, Marissa arrived. "There you are," she said to Lily. "We need photos outside before the sun moves." Graham promised Principal Haskins a few shots near the donor wall. Lily did not turn toward her. "Why wasn't Grandpa with us?" Marissa's smile held, but her eyes flicked toward me. "Honey, the school had reserved seating. It was complicated. It said grandfather on Graham's chair. Brian said, 'Lil, let's not do this in the aisle.'" Lily looked at him. "Do what?" He lowered his voice. "Make it awkward." I almost laughed at that. Not because anything was funny. Because that is how families like ours survive too long in bad habits. The person who points at the wound is accused of making the blood. Marissa touched Lily's back. "Sweetheart, Graham helped fund the senior scholarship. The school wanted to recognize that. Your grandfather knows that doesn't take anything away from him." I said nothing. Lily looked back at me, waiting. Hoping I would make it simple. Hoping I would say, "It's fine." For her, I nearly did. But there comes a moment when kindness becomes a tool other people expect you to hand them. I looked at the blue blur of my sleeve still frozen in my mind. "I know what they wanted to recognize," I said. Brian's jaw tightened. Marissa's fingers pressed into Lily's gown. Graham walked up then, cheerful and unaware or pretending to be. "Harold," he said, extending his hand. "Great day for the family, isn't it?" I looked at his hand. Clean, smooth, gold ring catching the light. I shook it. "It is," I said. "For whichever family made the final cut." His smile faltered. Lily heard it. Brian heard it. Marissa definitely heard it. But nobody answered. That was the pattern, if I look back now. Silence did the work. Marissa arranged, Brian avoided, Graham accepted, and I absorbed. Nobody had to say, "Harold does not matter." They only had to act as if saying it would be impolite. Outside, the sun was bright enough to make everyone squint. The school had a brick courtyard with a maple tree planted by the class of 1989 and a new donor wall with engraved metal plaques. Families crowded around a sign that said "Congratulations Seniors." I stood near the edge with my hands in my pockets, the key box resting against my knuckles. "Picture." Marissa called. Lily motioned me over. Marissa said, "Let's do immediate family first." Immediate family. There are words that seem harmless until they become gates. Brian stood beside Lily. Marissa on the other side. Graham behind them with his hand on Brian's shoulder, a pose no one questioned. The photographer took several shots. I waited. Then Marissa said, "Now one with Grandpa Harold." Not Grandpa. Grandpa Harold. Like a category. Like a visiting relative. Lily stepped away from the group and came to me. "No," she said. "With him too. Honey, we have a lot of people waiting. Then they can wait." That was Claire in her. Claire could be gentle, but once she planted her feet, you could not move her with a truck. Lily took my arm and pulled me to the center. Brian looked uncomfortable. Marissa looked like she had swallowed something sharp. Graham stepped aside with a polite little nod, as if granting permission for my cameo. The photographer lifted the camera. Everybody smile. I tried. But smiles are not switches. On the way to the restaurant afterward, I drove alone. They had offered me a ride, or rather Brian had said, "You can follow us if you want," which is not the same thing. I followed 3 cars back in my old Ford Ranger, watching Lily's graduation cap bob through the rear window of Brian's SUV. The restaurant was called the Copper Mill, one of those renovated warehouse places downtown with brick walls, hanging bulbs, and menus that describe potatoes like art. Marissa had reserved a long table. There were flowers, place cards, and a cake near the service station with blue icing. To Lily, from the family who got you here. I stood beside that cake for a few seconds while nobody noticed. There it was again. The family who got you here. I wondered who had driven her to freshman orientation when Brian's flight was delayed. Who had sat with her in urgent care when her breathing sounded like paper tearing. Who had taken her to get her learner's permit, then driven home with one hand gripping the dashboard while she learned the difference between braking and apologizing. Who had waited in the parking lot during therapy sessions after Claire's death because Lily said she did not want to talk about crying in front of her father yet. I had never needed those things on a cake. But seeing someone else claim them in frosting made my chest feel hollow. The seating arrangement at dinner was worse than the auditorium because it pretended to be casual. Lily sat near the middle, as she should. Brian and Marissa beside her. Graham across from her, perfect for photos. I was placed at the far end next to Marissa's co-worker and her husband, 2 kind people who asked me how I knew the graduate. "I'm her grandfather," I said. The husband smiled. "Oh, Graham's brother?" I looked down the table. Graham was telling a story about Lily's scholarship interview, one he had apparently heard from Marissa. He said, "I told Lily, confidence opens doors." Lily glanced at me. "She already had confidence," I said, louder than I intended. The table quieted. Graham gave a light laugh. "Of course. I just meant. She had to learn it before you met her." Brian said, "Dad." There was that warning again. Not angry. Worse. Embarrassed. Marissa leaned forward. "Harold, nobody is trying to erase what you've done." I turned toward her. "Erase," I said. Interesting word. Her face went still. Lily's fork stopped halfway to her plate. "What does that mean?" Lily asked. Brian set his napkin down. "It means your grandfather is upset about the seating. We'll talk later." "I'm asking him." I could feel the little white box in my pocket. I thought of the car sitting in Ray Delgado's garage, waxed and ready, the old Honda Civic with new brakes, new tires, fresh oil, and a small compass keychain Lily had once bought me at a gas station in Kentucky because she said every old driver needed treasure. I had planned the gift for months. Not because she needed a fancy car. She did not. It was a 2009 Civic with paint fading on the roof and one stubborn rattle near the glove compartment. But it was safe, paid for, and hers. I had tucked a notebook into the glove box. On the first page, I wrote, "Roads I Know," and listed the route from Ashford to her college dorm, with notes about cheap gas, decent rest stops, and the exit where traffic always backed up on Fridays. I had wanted to give it to her after dinner. I had imagined her laughing, crying, maybe telling me I was too much. I had imagined Brian looking surprised in a good way. I had imagined Marissa saying, "That's very generous," and for once meaning it. Instead, I looked at the cake. Today is about Lily, Marissa said quietly. I know, I said. That's why I stayed quiet at the ceremony. Graham cleared his throat. Brian looked down. Lily said, stayed quiet about what? Nobody answered quickly enough. That was when I knew the truth would come out one way or another. A lie can survive accusation. It can survive denial. It rarely survives a simple question asked by someone who has started paying attention. Marissa recovered first. Lily, sweetheart, this is not the time. Lily pushed her chair back. Why does everyone keep saying that? The sound of chair legs scraping made people at nearby tables look over. Brian stood halfway, then sat back down. I saw the panic in him, the old boy panic. He did not want a scene. He wanted time to find the softest version of the truth and present it later when everyone was tired. I stood. Sit down, Dad, Brian said. No. Please. I looked at my son, and for a second I saw him at 16, slamming doors after Ellen told him he could not take the car. I saw him at 23, holding a paper cup of hospital coffee after his mother died, unable to cry because he thought a man was supposed to manage grief like a schedule. I saw all the versions of him I had loved and failed and forgiven. I'm going home, I said. Lily stood too. Grandpa, wait. I touched her shoulder. Not because of you. Then tell me. I wanted to. God help me, I wanted to. But she was standing in a restaurant on the biggest day of her young life with a graduation dress under her gown and mascara she had carefully kept from running. There were cousins at the table, Marissa's co-workers, Graham's friends, all watching without looking like they were watching. I had spent years teaching Lily that love does not demand public damage. So I said, ask them why the photo in the video had my sleeve left in it. Lily's face changed. I walked out before she could answer. Outside, the evening had cooled. Downtown Ashford smelled like hot pavement, restaurant smoke, and the river 2 blocks away. I got into my truck and sat with both hands on the steering wheel. I did not start the engine. My phone buzzed 6 times in 10 minutes. Brian, Dad, where are you going? Brian, you embarrassed Lily. Brian, please call me. Marissa, Harold, I'm sorry you felt hurt. This has been misunderstood. Marissa again, Graham had nothing to do with the seating. Lily, Grandpa please answer. I read Lily's message and put the phone face down on the passenger seat. There are pains you can answer right away and pains that need quiet first. If I had called her then, I would have told her too much in the wrong order. I would have made her responsible for my hurt. I had watched too many adults do that to children from the driver's seat, handing them adult burdens wrapped like honesty. So I drove to Ray Delgado's garage. Ray was 70, Puerto Rican, widowed, and allergic to pretending. We had been friends since he fixed my first bus after I backed it into a maintenance pole in 1984 and told me, "You drive children for a living, how? Maybe try not to murder concrete." He owned Delgado Auto until his knees made climbing under cars a bad idea, then sold the business to his nephew but kept the back bay for projects, coffee, and arguments. The Honda was there under a blue cover. Ray was sitting in a folding chair with a radio playing a baseball game low. "You're early," he said. I stood by the car. "Didn't give it to her?" "No." Ray looked at me for a long moment, then turned off the radio. "What happened?" I told him. "Not all of it." "Enough." Ray listened without interrupting, which was rare for Ray and a sign he was angrier than he wanted me to see. When I got to the seat card, he leaned back and muttered something in Spanish that I will not repeat because Ellen would have smacked my arm. "They put another man's name under grandfather?" "Yes." And Brian let them? Yes. Ray rubbed his jaw. That boy always did hate weather. What does that mean? Any kind. Rain, snow, emotional weather. He sees clouds and looks for a basement. I almost smiled. Ray stood slowly and walked to the Honda. He lifted the cover from the front corner, revealing the clean headlight and the hood I had polished until it reflected the overhead bulb. You still giving her this? I don't know. She didn't do it. I know. Good. Remember that before you do something stupid. I'm trying not to. Ray nodded. Stupid is easy. Quiet is harder. I pulled the little white box from my pocket and set it on the hood. It looked too small to carry so much disappointment. Ray picked it up, opened it, and whistled softly. You even kept the bow. It came with the box. You kept it, he repeated. I took the box back and closed it. I was going to tell her the car wasn't a reward for graduating, I said. It was proof she could leave without being scared. Ray's face softened. She still needs that proof. Maybe. But not if they turn around and say it came from the family. Ray said nothing. That was the fear I could barely admit. Not that Lily would be ungrateful. Lily had never been that. The fear was that my gift would be swallowed into the same cleaned-up story. Marissa would post a photo of Lily with the car and write, "So proud we could help our girl start her next chapter." Brian would stand beside it smiling awkwardly. Graham would comment with a blessing emoji. And I would become, again, a blue sleeve at the edge of the frame. Ray sat back down. Hal, he said, you've been letting them use your silence as agreement. I looked at the covered car. I thought silence was peace. No. Sometimes silence is just free labor. I slept badly that night. At 2 a.m, I woke to rain tapping the window and sat at my kitchen table with a glass of water, looking at the magnet Lily had made in 4th grade. It was a popsicle stick frame around a photo of the two of us at the county fair. She had cotton candy on her cheek. I had a sunburn. Across the bottom she had written "Best Grandpa Driver" in purple marker. The magnet had been on my refrigerator for 8 years. I wondered when the story had started changing without me noticing. It is tempting to blame one day, one ceremony, one seat card. But families rarely break in one dramatic crack. They wear down along the places nobody repairs. I remembered Lily's first week of 7th grade. Marissa had sent a color-coded schedule to everyone, including me. It had pickup times, activity times, meal plans, homework windows, therapy appointments, everything. Under my name, in the column labeled support, she had written transportation overflow. I had laughed at the phrase then. Transportation overflow. It sounded like storm drainage. But that became my role. Overflow. When Brian could not make it, call Dad. When Marissa had a fundraiser, call Harold. When Lily needed poster board at 8 p.m., Grandpa would know which store stayed open. When Lily needed someone to sit in silence after therapy, Grandpa would not ask too many questions. When she needed driving hours, Grandpa had time. When she needed a place to sleep because home felt tense, Grandpa had the guest room ready. But when Lily needed a public family portrait, I became complicated. At 7 the next morning, I made coffee, black, and walked out to the porch. My house sits on Maple Street, a modest block with lifted sidewalks, old trees, and neighbors who wave whether they know you or not. Ellen and I bought the house in 1989. The porch rail still has a notch where Brian hit it with a baseball bat and tried to blame raccoons. My phone buzzed. Lily. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. Grandpa. Her voice was small. Morning, kiddo. Are you mad at me? No. You promise? Yes. Then why did you leave? I looked across the street at Mrs. Hanley's empty driveway. Because I was going to say things that belonged in a different room. She was quiet. What photo sleeve? She asked. I closed my eyes. You watched the video? I didn't see it from the stage. I watched the recording last night. The awards banquet picture. It looked cropped. I heard movement on her end. A door closing, maybe. She was trying to get privacy. Was that you? She asked. Yes. Why would they crop you out? That's a question for your father and Marissa. I'm asking you. You deserve answers from the people who made the decisions. I deserve answers from everybody. There it was. Claire again. Direct as sunlight. I sat down on the porch step. Lily, I don't want to turn your graduation into something ugly. It already feels ugly. I know. Did you know about the video before? No. The seat? No. She breathed in shakily. Graham said he didn't realize. He may not have. Marissa said you don't like ceremonies. She said you prefer being in the background. The words landed quietly, but they landed hard. How long has she said that? I don't know. A long time. I looked down at my hands. They were rough hands. Driver hands. Repair hands. Hands that had buckled Lily into a booster seat after Claire's funeral because she refused to let anyone else do it. Hands that had signed field trip forms and held ice packs and fixed loose cabinet hinges in Brian's house while Marissa talked on the phone about donor cultivation. I never minded the background, I said. When the background was where I chose to stand. What does that mean? It means I love you. And it means adults sometimes make things easier for themselves by saying another person doesn't care. She was crying now. I could hear her trying not to. I'm going to ask Dad. Okay. Will you answer later if I call? Yes. Do you swear? I swear. She hung up without saying goodbye, which told me she was walking straight into something. 20 minutes later Brian called. I did not answer. He called again. Then came the text. Dad, what did you say to Lily? I stared at it for a while, then typed. Not enough. I set the phone down and went to the hall closet. On the top shelf, behind a box of Christmas lights, I kept old paperwork in plastic tubs. Ellen had believed in saving everything. Receipts, warranties, school programs, cards, letters. I used to tease her about it until she died and those boxes became proof that our life had not only happened in memory. I pulled down the tub marked Lily's school. Inside were years. Kindergarten drawings Claire had saved before she got sick. A second-grade certificate for reading 100 books. A fourth-grade field trip badge with my name handwritten under chaperone. A middle school orchestra program. A high school parking pass receipt. Emergency contact forms. Volunteer forms. Copies of notes from teachers because I was often the one picking up. I had not saved them as evidence. That was what hurt. I had saved them because I loved her. Halfway down the box, I found the hospital envelope. Ashford Children's Emergency Department. October 14, 2016. Lily had been 8. The air had turned cold early that year, and mold and the fallen leaves set off her asthma. Brian was in Indianapolis for a conference. Marissa was not married to him yet, but she was at some weekend retreat with her mother. Claire had been gone 3 months. Lily called me from the bathroom because she did not want to scare the babysitter. Grandpa, my chest is being mean. I drove over in 7 minutes. I still remember the porch light flickering, the babysitter crying, Lily sitting on the bathroom floor with her inhaler in her lap like she had done something wrong. At the hospital they asked me if I was authorized to consent to treatment. I was. Because Claire, before she died, had added my name to everything she could. That night Lily slept in the ER bed with an oxygen tube under her nose and her hand wrapped around my thumb. I stayed until morning. Brian arrived at 6:12 a.m. wearing the same shirt from the day before, eyes red from the drive. He thanked me 3 times. Later, somehow, the story became your dad rushed home when you were sick. I never corrected it. The envelope still held the discharge papers, a parking receipt, and a small plastic bracelet they had cut from Lily's wrist. I do not know why I kept the bracelet. Maybe grief makes you save strange things. Maybe I kept it because that night I had been terrified of losing the last piece of Claire. I set the bracelet on the table. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Marissa. Harold, I think this has gotten out of hand. Lily is very upset. We need to handle this carefully and not rewrite history because of one seating issue. Rewrite history. I laughed once, not happily. Then I opened a drawer and found a blank envelope. I put inside it the spare key to Brian's house that had hung on my hook for 11 years. I added the grocery store loyalty card I used for their weekly pickup because Marissa liked ordering online but hated the service fee. I put in the garage code opener Brian had given me after Claire died. On a piece of paper, I wrote, "Brian. These belong at your house. Dad." I did not explain. Explanation is a bridge. I was tired of building bridges for people who only crossed when they needed something. I drove to the post office before lunch. On the way home, I passed Ashford High. The graduation banner still hung over the entrance. Workers were taking down folding chairs from the courtyard. Near the side door, a trash bag had split open, and blue programs had spilled onto the pavement. I pulled over without planning to. The building was quieter now. Schools after big events have a strange sadness, like stages after the audience leaves. I walked to the office because I wanted a copy of the video program. That was what I told myself. Mrs. Calloway was at the front desk sorting envelopes. She looked up and recognized me immediately. "Mr. Bennett." She had been at Ashford High for years, first as a history teacher, then activities coordinator. She was thin, kind-eyed, and always looked as if she had slept 4 hours but still remembered everyone's birthday. "I'm sorry to bother you," I said. "You're not." I wondered if I could get a copy of the graduation video. "For Lily." Her expression shifted. "Of course. We usually send a link to parents, but I can write it down." She turned to her computer, then paused. "Mr. Bennett, can I say something?" "Sure." She lowered her voice. "I'm sorry about the seating confusion." There was that word again. Confusion. I said, "Were you told I preferred general seating?" Her fingers stilled on the keyboard. "Yes." "Who told you?" She looked toward the hallway, though no one was there. "The family submitted the reserved list." "The family." "I don't want to get in the middle." "I'm not asking you to. I'm asking who sent the list." She hesitated. Good people hesitate when truth has consequences. "Mrs. Bennett did," she said. "Marissa." "Yes." "And the video?" Mrs. Calloway removed her glasses and rubbed the bridge of her nose. "The family submitted photos and names. We asked each graduate to approve their spoken segment, but the final images came from the family folder." "Was my name in the original list?" She did not answer. That was answer enough. I nodded. Thank you. Mr. Bennett, she said quickly, for what it's worth, I remember you. I remember seeing you at almost every event. I didn't understand why you weren't included. Something in my throat tightened. Maybe I made it easy, I said. She frowned. Easy? To leave me out? No, she said firmly. Being quiet is not the same as being absent. I had to look away. She printed the video link and wrote a password on a sticky note. As she handed it to me, another paper slipped from the stack beside her. She caught it, but not before I saw the subject line. Family support video, approved names. My eyes went to the list. Brian Bennett. Marissa Bennett. Graham Whitmore. Elaine Whitmore. A note beneath, copied from an email. Please keep the focus on immediate family and Graham's scholarship support. Harold is not necessary for the main family section. Not necessary. There are crueler words, I suppose. Louder ones. Words with sharper teeth. But not necessary has its own kind of violence. It sounds administrative. Reasonable. Clean. It does not say hated or unwanted or ashamed of. It simply places you outside the circle and makes the decision look practical. Mrs. Calloway saw that I had read it. Her face went pale. I'm sorry. You weren't meant to see that. I folded the sticky note around the video link. I'm beginning to think that's the family motto. I left before she could apologize again. That afternoon Brian came to my house. He did not knock right away. I saw his car pull up, saw him sit there with both hands on the wheel, head bowed. Brian has always needed a few minutes before difficult rooms. When he was a boy, if he got in trouble at school, he would stand outside the kitchen door and breathe like he was about to enter a courtroom. Finally he came to the porch. I opened the door before he knocked. He looked tired. Not angry now. Tired. Dad. Brian. Can I come in? I stepped aside. He entered the living room and immediately looked at the wall where I kept framed photos. Lily at the zoo. Lily missing her front teeth. Lily at her first choir concert. Lily and Brian after a fifth-grade play. Lily and me by the ford with a fishing pole neither of us knew how to use. Brian looked away first. Lily's upset, he said. Yes. Marissa is upset. I imagine. Graham feels terrible. That must be hard for him. His jaw tightened. Dad, please. I sat in my recliner. He remained standing. Sit down, Brian. I don't want to sit. Then stand. He ran a hand through his hair. He has done that since he was 7. Marissa handled most of the graduation planning. I didn't look closely at the seating. That's one problem. He exhaled. I know. Did you look at the video? Not before. Did you know she told the school I didn't want to be included? He stared at me. She said it would be cleaner. Cleaner. There it was. The word beneath all the other words. I leaned back. Cleaner for who? For the program. For donor recognition. He stopped. For people with suits. That's not fair. No. It isn't. He looked at the floor. Dad, Graham gave a lot of money to that school. I heard. It helped Lily. It helped other kids too. Good. So the school wanted to acknowledge him. Marissa thought if there were too many grandparent figures, it would be confusing. Lily has one grandfather who raised his hand when she needed someone. Brian flinched. I know you were there, he said quietly. Do you? Yes. Then why do I keep having to prove it? He sat down finally, not because he wanted to, but because his legs seemed to give up. I'm sorry, he said. It sounded real. It also sounded late. For what part? He rubbed his forehead. For not catching it. That's not the same as stopping it. He looked up. What do you want me to say? The truth. The truth is I didn't want another fight with Marissa. That was the first honest thing he said. The room settled around it. He continued, voice lower. She thinks you undermine her sometimes. I undermine her by picking Lily up from school. She thinks Lily runs to you instead of dealing with things at home. That started before Marissa was in the house. I know. Does she? He did not answer. There were old layers here. Claire's death. Brian's guilt. Marissa's insecurity. Lily's loyalty. My own habit of stepping in before being asked because I could not bear seeing a child wait. None of us were innocent in the simple way people prefer. But there is a difference between complicated and wrong. Brian said, Marissa wants Lily to see us as stable. She can see you as stable without making me invisible. I know. Do you? He looked at me then, and I saw tears in his eyes. Brian rarely cries. Ellen used to say his tears got lost on the way to his face. I needed you, he said. After Claire. I needed you so much I stopped noticing how much I was taking. That hurt differently. I wanted to forgive him right there. A father's heart is a foolish old dog. It hears one soft word and runs to the door. But forgiveness without change is just permission with nicer lighting. I stood and walked to the kitchen table. The hospital envelope was there. I picked up the parking receipt and handed it to him. He looked at it. Ashford Children's, he said. October 14, 2016. His face shifted. Lily's asthma. Yes. I drove back that night. You did. You were with her until I got there. I was. He held the receipt carefully. She thinks I took her. I know. I didn't tell her that. You didn't correct it either. He sat very still. Dad. No. Listen. I'm not angry because people clapped for Graham. I'm not angry because he gave money. I'm not even angry because I sat in the 6th row. I'm angry because somewhere along the way, all of you decided my love was useful in private and inconvenient in public. Brian closed his eyes. I set the cut hospital bracelet on the table. This was not a seed issue, I said. He touched the bracelet with one finger, then pulled his hand back. What do you want me to do? I don't know yet. That scared him more than anger would have. He left 20 minutes later with the parking receipt, but not the bracelet. He asked if he could take it. I said no. Some proof should not leave the house until the person it belongs to asks for it. That evening, Marissa came. She did knock, sharply. She stood on the porch in white pants, a blue blouse, and a controlled expression. She was carrying a tote bag with Hospital Foundation lettering on it. May I come in? I considered saying no. Then I opened the door. She sat on the edge of the sofa like the fabric might remember her. I stayed in the chair across from her. The coffee table between us held Lily's 4th-grade magnet, which I had taken from the refrigerator without realizing and set there like a small witness. Marissa looked at it. She was adorable, she said. She still is. Yes. Silence. Then she folded her hands. Harold, I owe you an apology. That sounds prepared. Her mouth tightened. I've been thinking about this all day. So have I. I handled graduation poorly. I should have made sure you had a better seat. A better seat. She breathed through her nose. I should have included you in the video. Why didn't you? Because the video was 3 minutes long. We had to make choices. Not necessary. That was the choice. Her face changed just enough. Mrs. Calloway should not have shown you that. She didn't. I saw it. I didn't mean it the way it sounds. How did you mean it? She looked away toward the window. I meant that Lily already knows you love her. She knows your role. The video was about the formal support around her graduation and scholarship. Formal support. Yes. What is the formal category for sitting in an emergency room at 2 in the morning? She pressed her lips together. That's not fair. I almost smiled. Brian had said the same thing. People keep saying that to me. She leaned forward, her voice softening into the tone she probably used with donors who were upset about plaque placement. Harold, you have to understand the world Lily is entering. College, recommendations, future networking. Presentation matters. Whether we like it or not, people make assumptions. Graham's support gives her opportunities. And I don't. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. She looked at the floor. For the first time since I had known her, Marissa looked less polished. Not defeated. Not villainous. Human, which was harder. Her eyes were tired. Her fingers twisted around her wedding ring. I grew up with nothing stable, she said. My mother married Graham when I was 19, and suddenly people treated us differently. Doors opened. Teachers remembered my name. Guidance counselors stopped speaking slowly to me. I know what respectability does. I know what happens when people think your family looks messy. And I make it look messy. She did not answer quickly enough. I nodded. I drive an old truck. I wear the same jacket. I don't know which fork belongs to salad unless Ellen is there to kick me under the table. I understand. That is not what I meant. It is partly what you meant. Her eyes filled, but she did not cry. I wanted Lily to have the best possible start. No, I said quietly. You wanted her story to look like it had the best possible start. That landed. She sat back. You think I'm ashamed of you. I think you are ashamed of what I remind people. What is that? That Lily needed someone because the polished version of your family did not always work. Her face went pale. I regretted the sharpness and did not regret the truth. She stood, smoothing her blouse. I didn't come here to be attacked. No. You came here to make this smaller. I came here to fix it. Fixing it would have been telling the truth before the chairs were set. She picked up her tote bag. What are you going to do? There it was. Not, what can I do? Not, how do we make this right with Lily? But, what are you going to do? The fear was not the wound. The fear was the consequence. I looked at the magnet on the table. I'm going to stop making it easy. She left without asking what that meant. The next few days were quiet in the way a house is quiet after someone slams a door. The sound is gone, but the air still holds it. I did small things. I canceled the weekly grocery pickup that charged to my card because Marissa was always too busy to stop after work but hated paying the service fee. I removed my number from 2 old-school auto-notification lists because Lily had graduated and because no one should keep using an old door after they have bricked up the entrance. I called my insurance agent and asked him to remove Brian's address from anything connected to the Honda. Everything okay, Hal? He asked. No, I said. But the paperwork can be. I went to Ray's garage and told him we would hold the car. For how long, he asked. Until I know it won't become another family prop. Ray nodded. Good. He was polishing the side mirror with a rag. Girl called me. Lily? Yeah. What did she ask? If the car was real. I closed my eyes. How did she know? Ray gave me a look. She's 18, not stupid. She saw you touching your pocket all night, and she knows I can't keep my mouth shut when I'm proud of a repair. What did you tell her? That old men don't discuss gifts over the phone. Ray. What? That is me showing restraint. I sat on an overturned bucket. She shouldn't be in the middle. She's not in the middle, how? She's at the center. That's different. I hated when Ray was right. Lily did not call for 2 days. On the third, Mrs. Calloway called me. Mr. Bennett, I hope this is okay. Lily asked for access to the raw graduation files. I gripped the phone. Is that allowed? She's the student featured in them. I can share her segment and submitted materials with her. I wanted you to know because your name came up. How? There was a pause. She asked why the school believed you preferred not to be included. I sat down slowly. What did you say? I told her we received that note from her family submission. Did you show her the email? She asked directly. I looked at the kitchen window, where a small crack ran along the corner, one I had meant to fix for 6 years. Good, I said. I'm sorry if that causes trouble. Truth usually does when it arrives late. After we hung up, I waited for Lily's call. It did not come. Instead, that evening, an email arrived from an address I did not recognize. The subject line was, "Do you have old pictures of us?" It was from Lily's school account. Grandpa. I'm making something. Please don't ask me what yet because I don't know if I can do it without crying. Do you have any pictures from when I was little? Not the good ones. The regular ones. The ones nobody posts. Love. Lily. I read it 3 times. Then I went to the closet and pulled out every tub. There were pictures, yes. Hundreds. Lily asleep in my recliner with a book open on her stomach. Lily in mismatched socks holding a lunchbox. Lily with a fever giving a thumbs up from under a blanket. Lily on the porch steps after her first day of middle school, eyes swollen because she had cried in the bathroom and pretended she had not. Lily at the county fair. Lily in my truck. Lily holding a wrench at Ray's garage. Lily standing beside Ellen's rosebush the year it finally bloomed again after being cut back too hard. Regular ones. The ones that prove a life happened between ceremonies. I scanned them at the public library because my scanner at home had not worked since 2019 and because I still liked the smell of old carpet and copier toner. The young librarian showed me how to upload everything to a folder. She had purple hair and a patient smile. When she saw one photo of Lily with a paper crown, she said, "Your granddaughter?" Yes. She looks like she trusts you. I had to pretend to cough. I sent the folder to Lily without a message. She replied an hour later. I didn't know you had all of this. I typed. I was there for it. Then I deleted it. I typed instead. Take what you need. That night, I sat on the porch until mosquitoes drove me inside. The next morning, Lily came over. No warning. Just her little blue Corolla pulling up behind my truck. It had a loose bumper and an air conditioner that gave up above 85 degrees. She got out wearing shorts, a college sweatshirt, and no makeup. Her hair was piled on top of her head. She held a folder against her chest. I opened the door. "Hey, kiddo." She did not answer. She stepped into my arms and cried so hard I had to hold the doorframe to keep us both steady. I did not ask what she had found. I knew grief when it arrived with receipts. After a while, she pulled away and wiped her face with the sleeve of her sweatshirt. "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For not knowing. You were a child." "I'm not now." "No." She came inside and sat at the kitchen table. She opened the folder. Inside were printed emails, photos, copies of school forms, and one screenshot of the cropped awards banquet photo beside the original. In the original, I was standing next to Lily with my hand on her shoulder. In the cropped version, my hand was gone, but a sliver of my blue jacket remained. She tapped it. I thought this was a mistake. I sat across from her. It wasn't. She nodded. Mrs. Calloway showed me the email. Marissa wrote "not necessary." Dad was copied. I looked at the table. Did he respond? He wrote, "Fine with me if Lily is." But nobody asked me. There are sentences that age a person. I felt older hearing that. Lily pulled another paper from the folder. "Do you remember the night I went to the hospital?" "Yes." "I thought Dad took me." "He came when he could." "That's not what I asked." I met her eyes. "I took you." She pressed her lips together. "Why didn't you tell me? What good would it have done when you were 8? I'm not 8 now." "No." She opened a small plastic bag. Inside was a copy of the emergency contact form from elementary school. Claire's handwriting listed my name under authorized medical contact. Brian's name was above mine. There was no Marissa yet. Lily touched Claire's signature. "Mom trusted you." "Yes." She knew. She knew a lot. Lily looked toward the fridge. Her purple magnet was still there. "All these years, they said you didn't like attention. They said you hated ceremonies. They said you were happier helping behind the scenes. I don't love attention. That's not the same as being erased." I smiled sadly. "No, it isn't." She pulled one more item from the folder. A still image from an old video. It showed her as a little girl in the passenger seat of my truck, cheeks flushed, hair tangled, holding up a hospital sticker. The image was grainy. "I found this on my old phone," she said. "It still works if you keep it plugged in. Did you take this?" "No." "You did." "I don't remember." "You were tired." She turned the phone toward me and pressed play. The video shook badly. My old truck dashboard filled half the frame. Rain dotted the windshield. Lily's small voice whispered, "We are leaving the hospital and Grandpa says I can have pancakes if I breathe normal." My voice, younger and rough with worry, said, "I said if the doctor says you can have pancakes." "You know all the roads," little Lily said. "I know this one. Even in the dark. Especially in the dark." The camera tilted toward me. I was watching the road, cap low, one hand on the wheel, the other reaching to adjust the heater vent toward her. Little Lily said, "Grandpa says scary roads are easier when somebody knows every turn." The video ended. Lily covered her mouth. I could not speak. That line. I had forgotten saying it. Or maybe I had said some version of it 100 times. To children on buses. To Brian when he was learning to drive. To Lily whenever she worried about storms, detours, college, grief. Adults think wisdom comes in speeches, but most of what we give children comes out while we are watching traffic. Lily wiped her face. I'm making a new video, she said. For what? The senior thank you reception. I shook my head. Lily. No. Her voice was quiet but firm. I'm not doing it to humiliate anyone. I'm doing it because I gave a speech thanking people who showed up for me, and the video lied. It didn't lie about everyone. It lied by leaving you out. I leaned back. Your father will be hurt. He should be. Marissa will say you're being dramatic. She already did. When? This morning. Of course. Lily folded her hands around the phone. She said you were turning me against the family. I felt heat rise in my chest. I never wanted that. I know. That's how I know she's wrong. She reached across the table and took my hand. She also said you like being in the background. I looked down at our hands. What did you say? Lily's mouth trembled, but she did not cry this time. I said, maybe we should ask why we kept putting him there. I closed my eyes. There are moments that do not fix the past but loosen its grip. That was one. Still, the story did not become simple after that. Real truth never walks into a family like a hero. It comes in like weather. It gets under doors. It ruins plans. It makes everybody cold before anybody admits the window is open. Marissa called Lily 3 times that afternoon. Lily did not answer the first 2. On the third, she put the call on speaker at my kitchen table without warning me. Lily, Marissa said, her voice tight, your father and I are worried about where this is going. Lily looked at me. I shook my head slightly, not because I wanted her to hang up, but because I wanted her to remember she did not need to perform anger in front of me. Where is it going? Lily asked. That depends on whether everyone can calm down. I'm calm. Sending private family emails to the school and digging through old records is not calm. I asked for materials about my graduation video. You are using them to attack me. I haven't done anything yet. But you're planning to. Lily looked out the window. I'm planning to tell the truth. Marissa sighed, and I could picture her pressing her fingers to her forehead. Honey, truth without context can be cruel. That's funny, Lily said quietly. What is? Leaving Grandpa out had context. It was still cruel. There was silence on the line. Then Marissa's tone changed. Softer. More dangerous because it sounded wounded. I have done everything I could to give you a stable family. Lily swallowed. I know you tried. You have no idea what it was like coming into a house where everyone was still grieving a woman I could never compete with a child who ran to her grandfather every time I made a rule. I looked down at the table. There it was. Not the whole truth, but a piece of it. Lily said, I ran to Grandpa because he was safe. I was trying to be safe too. I know. No, you don't. You think I wanted to replace him. I wanted to build a family that didn't look broken every time people asked who belonged where. Lily's eyes filled. You can't fix broken by hiding the person who helped hold it together. Marissa did not answer. When she spoke again, her voice was cold. If you play some public tribute to Harold at the reception, you will embarrass your father, you will embarrass Graham, and you will make people think terrible things about this family. Lily wiped one tear with the heel of her hand. Maybe they'll think true things. Marissa hung up. Lily sat still for a long time. I don't want to hate her, she whispered. Good. But I don't trust her. That may also be good. She looked at me. Do you think I'm being cruel? No. Do you think Mom would? The question hit me in the center. Claire. I looked toward the little shelf by the window where I kept an old photo of Claire holding baby Lily. Claire's face was thinner in that picture than anyone liked to remember, but her smile was fierce. "Your mother believed truth had to be kind," I said. "But she never thought kindness meant lying." Lily nodded slowly. "Then I'll make it kind." The senior thank you reception was scheduled for the following Thursday evening in the school cafeteria. It was supposed to be small. Seniors who had received local scholarships would come with their families, teachers, and donors. There would be cookies, lemonade, a slideshow, and speeches short enough that people could still get home before dark. Marissa tried to stop Lily's video. I found that out from Mrs. Calloway, who called me 2 days before the reception. "Mr. Bennett," she said, sounding exhausted, "I'm sorry to involve you, but there's been a request to review Lily's revised video." From Marissa. Yes. And Lily is 18. It is her speech segment. As long as she does not accuse anyone directly or use private information without consent, she may include her own family photos. Will the school let her play it? There was a pause. "We are discussing that." That meant no. "What are they afraid of?" I asked. "Upsetting donors." I looked at my kitchen wall. "Of course. I don't agree with it," she said quickly. "But Principal Haskins is concerned. The Whitmore Fund is important to the school." "I understand. I thought you should know." After we hung up, I sat for a while. Then I got in my truck and drove to the school. Principal Haskins was not happy to see me. He was a neat man in his late 50s, with a silver tie and a framed quote about leadership behind his desk. I had known him when he was a young assistant principal who wore short-sleeved dress shirts and tried too hard to seem firm with teenagers. "Mr. Bennett," he said. "I wish you had made an appointment. I won't take long." He glanced at Mrs. Calloway, who stood near the filing cabinet like someone expecting lightning. I sat without being invited. "Age gives you a few privileges, and one of them is sitting when your knee tells you to." "I heard there's concern about Lily's video," I said. Principal Haskins folded his hands. "We only want to make sure the reception remains positive." "Positive for who?" "For the students." "Lily is the student." "Yes. But there are families, donors, community partners." "Graham Whitmore." His face tightened. "The Whitmore Fund supports several students each year." "That's good." "It is good. I drove students for this district for 38 years, I said. Some of them wore coats that came from boxes in the transportation office. Some ate breakfast because drivers kept granola bars in glove compartments. Some got home safe because someone noticed they were too quiet and called the counselor. None of that has a fund named after it." He looked uncomfortable. "I respect your service, Mr. Bennett. I'm not asking for respect." "Then what are you asking for?" I leaned forward. "I'm asking you not to teach my granddaughter that money gets the front row and truth needs permission." Mrs. Calloway looked down. Principal Haskins sighed. "That is not what this is about." "Yes," I said. "It is." Silence. Then he said the kind of thing administrators say when they want to be fair without risking anything. "Perhaps Lily could make her tribute privately." "No." His eyebrows lifted. I surprised myself too. "No," I repeated. "She was erased publicly. She gets to tell the truth publicly, if she can do it without cruelty. And if donors are offended, then maybe they should ask why a thank you video scares them." He looked at me for a long time. "Did Lily ask you to come here?" "No." "Does she know you're here?" "No." "Then why are you?" I thought about that. Because she should not have to fight alone for the right to say someone mattered. Principal Haskins leaned back. I could see him calculating. Not evil calculation. Practical calculation. Schools live on budgets, donations, politics, board members, parent complaints, and 1,000 pressures that have nothing to do with truth. He was not a villain. But systems do not need villains to hurt people. They only need enough reasonable people choosing the smoother path. Finally he said, I will review the video myself. If it is respectful, I will allow it. Mrs. Calloway's shoulders dropped slightly. Thank you, I said. As I stood to leave, Principal Haskins said, Mr. Bennett. I turned. I do remember your bus. I waited. He looked embarrassed. When I first started here, you drove a boy named Marcus Reed. He was homeless for a while. You were the one who noticed he kept falling asleep. I remembered Marcus. Thin boy. Red backpack. Slept with his head against the window because his family was living in a motel by the interstate. You called the counselor, Principal Haskins said. That changed things for him. He was tired. Yes, he said. He was. I nodded once and left. Outside, I sat in my truck for several minutes before starting the engine. Sometimes people do remember. They just do not always remember in time. The thank you reception came on a humid Thursday evening. Lily asked me 3 times to attend. I said no. Not because I wanted to punish her. Not because I was afraid. Because I knew if I sat in that cafeteria, everyone would watch me watching them, and the whole thing would become about reaction. Lily needed to do what she needed to do without checking whether I approved every second. Also, if I am honest, I was tired. People talk about standing up for yourself as if it is a single brave act. Sometimes it is a week of not answering messages. Sometimes it is returning keys. Sometimes it is sitting across from your son and not making him feel better too quickly. Sometimes it is letting a granddaughter be angry without rushing in to calm the room. Sometimes it is staying home while the truth walks into a cafeteria without you. Ray came over that evening with meatloaf from Millie's diner because he said no man should face emotional warfare on an empty stomach. We ate at my kitchen table while my phone sat between us. You nervous? He asked. Yes. Good. Means you're alive. At 7:14, my phone buzzed. Lily had sent a video file. No message. Just the file. Ray said, you opening it? Not yet. How? I need a minute. He pushed his plate aside. No. You needed a minute 10 years ago. Open the thing. So I did. The video began not in the cafeteria, but on a road. My road. Route 12, early morning, filmed from a moving car. The sky was pale gray. Cornfield stretched on both sides. The camera passed Miller's Pond, the old cemetery, the curve near the railroad tracks. Lily had gone out and filmed the road herself. Her voice came over the image. When I was little, I thought getting somewhere meant somebody just drove you there. I didn't think about who woke up early, who checked the weather, who knew which roads flooded, who sat in the parking lot, who waited until you were ready to talk. The image cut to the old hospital video. Little Lily's voice filled the cafeteria recording, thin and sweet. Grandpa says scary roads are easier when somebody knows every turn. The camera in the reception recording shifted. Someone in the cafeteria gasped softly. Then came photos. Me holding Lily's backpack in 3rd grade. Me asleep in a chair at the emergency room, mouth open, cap pulled low. Me standing in rain beside the school entrance with an umbrella over Lily but not over myself. Me behind the wheel while Lily filmed snow hitting the windshield. Me at the science fair, kneeling to tape her display board because it kept falling. Me in the back row of the auditorium, clapping. Lily's voice continued. Some people support you from the front row. Some people support you from behind the camera, behind the wheel, beside the hospital bed, outside the classroom door, and at the end of every bad day when you say you don't need anybody but still hope somebody comes. A photo of the cropped awards banquet appeared. First the version from graduation, with my sleeve at the edge. Then the original. The cafeteria went completely silent. Lily did not say who cropped it. She did not need to. Her voice said, "This is my grandfather, Harold Bennett." Not because of a seat card. Not because of a donation. Because when my life was hard to carry, he carried the ordinary parts no one applauds. The video showed the 4th grade magnet. Then the emergency contact form with Claire's signature. Then a picture of the old Honda's steering wheel. She must have taken it at Ray's garage without telling me, or Ray had helped her, the traitor. Her final line was simple. Some people don't need the front row to prove they showed up. But they should never have to disappear from the story to make everybody else comfortable. The screen went black. I sat staring at my phone. Ray was quiet beside me. In the recording, applause started slowly. Not roaring. Not theatrical. Real applause, uncertain at first because people were looking around to understand what they had just witnessed. Then stronger. Someone sniffed near the microphone. A chair scraped. The video ended. I looked at Ray. He wiped one eye with the back of his hand and scowled at me. "Allergies," he said. "Of course." Another message came from Lily. "I wish you had been there, but I understand why you weren't." Then another. "Dad cried. Marissa left before dessert. Graham told me afterward he was sorry and said he should have asked more questions. I don't know what happens now." I typed slowly. "I'm proud of you." She replied. "I learned from someone who knows the roads." I set the phone down and covered my face. Ray let me have that minute. Brian came over the next morning. He looked worse than he had the first time. Less polished, less defended. He stood on the porch holding a paper bag from the bakery where Ellen used to buy cinnamon rolls on Saturdays. "Peace offering?" I asked. "Coward's breakfast," he said. That was so much like something Ellen would have said that I opened the door. We sat at the kitchen table. He took out 2 cinnamon rolls and napkins. Neither of us ate at first. "I saw the video," he said. "I figured. I deserved it. I waited. Marissa says Lily humiliated the family. What do you say?" He looked at the window. "I say Lily told the truth more gently than we deserved. That was new." He pushed the bakery bag aside. "I've been thinking about Mom." My chest tightened. Brian almost never brought up Ellen without being forced. "She would have torn me apart," he said. "Maybe. No. She would have. She used to say you were easy to take for granted because you made hard things look routine." I remembered that. Ellen had said it once when Brian was in college and forgot my birthday because exams were coming up. I told her not to make a fuss. She said, "I'm not making a fuss. I'm keeping our son from becoming a man who thinks reliable means disposable." I had forgotten that too. Brian rubbed his eyes. "I became that man anyway. A father wants to say, 'No, son, you didn't.' A father wants to rescue his child even from accurate shame. But I did not." "You can become something else," I said. He nodded, but he looked afraid. "I talked to Lily." "Really talked?" She asked me why I let Marissa say you didn't care about ceremonies. And I told her because it was easier. That's honest. She asked if loving someone quietly makes it easier for people to steal the credit. I almost smiled. Good question. I didn't have an answer. You don't need one right away. You need different behavior. He looked at me. How do I fix it? You don't fix it. You live differently long enough for people to believe you. He nodded slowly. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of cardstock. The seat card. Grandfather. Graham Whitmore. I found it in Marissa's event folder, he said. I thought you should have it. I stared at it. Why? I don't know. Proof, maybe. I have enough proof. He looked embarrassed. I'm sorry. This time, the apology did not ask to be rewarded. It just sat there. I took the card. Thank you. He left soon after. We did not hug. Not every hard conversation earns a hug. Sometimes the first sign of repair is that nobody forces warmth before it can stand. I carried the card to the garage and set it on my workbench. For 2 days, I did not touch it. Then the larger truth arrived. It did not arrive through Marissa confessing. People who build polished stories rarely confess all at once. It arrived through Lily, through a folder she found in the house while looking for her vaccination records for college. She came over on a Monday evening with her face pale and a manila envelope in her hand. Grandpa, she said, I need you to read something. She sat at my kitchen table and slid the envelope across. Inside were printed drafts of scholarship recommendation materials from the past 4 years. Marissa had kept copies of everything. Of course she had. Marissa organized life the way some people organize silverware. There was a 9th grade leadership camp application. A 10th grade hospital volunteer profile. A junior year scholarship biography. A senior year donor luncheon introduction. Each one had a section labeled family support or personal background. Each one mentioned Brian. Each one mentioned Marissa. Starting in 10th grade, each one mentioned Graham. Not one mentioned me. That alone would have hurt, but absence was no longer surprising. Then Lily pointed to a paragraph on the junior year scholarship biography. After the loss of her mother, Lily found stability through her father, stepmother, and grandfather figure, Graham Whitmore, whose guidance helped shape her interest in service and community leadership. Grandfather figure. I stared at the words until they blurred. Lily's voice shook. That was before graduation. That was last year. I did not answer. She pulled another page. Hospital volunteer profile, grade 10. Lily credits her family's commitment to healthcare philanthropy, especially her step-grandfather Graham Whitmore, for inspiring her interest in patient care. Lily let out a small, bitter laugh. I wanted nursing because of Mom. And because of that night at the hospital. Because I remembered somebody staying with me when I was scared, even if I didn't remember it right. She touched the paper. Marissa wrote this. I knew that before she said it. Dad was copied on the emails, Lily continued. He approved the final versions because I was under 18. He said he never read them closely. A tired anger moved through me. Not hot. Heavy. Graduation had not been the beginning. Graduation had been the moment the story became visible. For years, Marissa had not merely left me out of photographs. She had built a cleaner version of Lily's life for schools, donors, scholarship committees, and anyone who might matter. In that version, Brian had recovered, Marissa had stabilized the home, Graham had provided wisdom and opportunity, and I was nowhere. Not because I had done nothing. Because what I had done made the story less elegant. I was the evidence that Lily's childhood had required ordinary rescue. The man in the old truck. The retired bus driver. The widower with a guest room. The person called when plans failed. You cannot polish that easily. Lily looked at me across the table. Did you know? No. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing for other people's choices. I used those applications. I got opportunities from them. You earned those opportunities. Not with the whole truth. I leaned forward. Lily, listen to me. You did not write those when you were 14, 15, 16. Adults shaped the story around you. That is not your guilt. She nodded, but I could see guilt does not obey instructions. That was the deepest cut, I think. Not the chair. Not the photo. Not the cake. It was realizing that Lily had been given a version of her own life where the person who had shown up most quietly had been edited out so early and so often that even she had started believing the edit. That evening, she drove home with the envelope. I sat at the kitchen table long after dark, the seat card still on my workbench in the garage. At 9, Marissa called. I answered. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she said, Lily found the scholarship files. Yes. I didn't know she would take them this way. How did you expect her to take them? As support. As context. As opportunities one was trying to secure for her. By replacing me. That is not what I was doing. Marissa. My voice came out quieter than I expected. You wrote him into places he never stood. Silence. Then, tiredly, she said, you don't understand the pressure. You're right. I don't. I was trying to make people see her as more than tragedy. More than the girl whose mother died. More than the child being passed between houses. She was not being passed between houses. She was being cared for. That's not how it looks on paper. Then maybe paper is too small for the truth. She exhaled, shaky. I came from a house people whispered about. Notices on the door. Cars repossessed. My mother crying over bills. Teachers looking at me like I was already behind. When Graham married my mother, everything changed. Suddenly people believed I had potential. They called it mentorship. They called it stability. They called it family support. I wanted that for Lily before anyone could decide she was damaged. I listened. For the first time, I understood her more fully. Understanding did not excuse it. You were so afraid people would look down on her, I said, that you looked down on the life that saved her. She made a small sound. I didn't mean to. I believe you. You do. Yes. She breathed out. Then I said, but meaning to is not the only way people do harm. She was quiet for a long time. What do I do now? She asked. This time it sounded different from what are you going to do? This time there was no strategy in it. I looked toward the garage door. You tell her the truth, I said. Not the clean version. Not the useful version. The truth. I don't know if she'll forgive me. She may not right away. And you? I closed my eyes. I don't know. That was the most honest thing I had. The next person who came to see me was Graham. He called first, which I appreciated. He asked if I had 20 minutes. He did not say what it was about. I told him he could come by after lunch. He arrived in a dark sedan that looked too polished for Maple Street. For once, he was not wearing a suit. He had on khaki pants and a short-sleeved button-down shirt, and without the jacket and the shine, he looked older. Not weak. Just older. He stood on my porch holding a manila envelope. "Harold," he said. "Graham. May I?" I stepped aside. He entered my living room and looked around the way people with large houses sometimes look at small ones, not with judgment exactly, but with surprise that everything needed can fit into fewer rooms. He stopped at the photo wall. "There are a lot of Lily here." "Yes." He looked at one picture of Lily at about 12, wearing safety goggles in Ray's garage, holding a wrench with both hands. "I've never seen most of these." "No." He turned to me. "I suppose that's part of the problem." I did not answer. He sat on the sofa. I stayed in the chair across from him. The same chair where Marissa had sat. The house had become a courtroom without meaning to. Graham placed the envelope on the coffee table. "I brought copies of my correspondence with the school about the Whitmore Fund," he said. "Not because you asked. Because I wanted you to know what I knew and what I didn't. I didn't accuse you." "No," he said. "That may be why I came." I studied him. He looked down at his hands. His nails were clean. His knuckles slightly swollen with age. When Marissa asked if I would be willing to participate in Lily's scholarship events, I was flattered, he said. "My own grandchildren live in Seattle. I see them twice a year if flights cooperate. My first wife died 12 years ago. Elaine and Marissa became my family late. I have always been aware that I arrived after the hardest parts." That was more honesty than I expected. He continued. "When people called me Lily's grandfather figure, I should have corrected it more carefully. At first I did, in small ways. I'd say, step-grandfather, or Marissa's stepfather. But people prefer shorter stories. And I liked it." He looked up then. "I liked being treated as if I belonged more deeply than I had earned." The room was quiet. Outside, a lawn mower started somewhere down the block. "That does not make me responsible for every choice Marissa made," he said. "But it makes me responsible for accepting the benefits of those choices." I leaned back. "You knew about the seat." "Not until that morning." "The card had your name." "Yes." "And you sat there." He closed his eyes briefly. "I did." "Why?" "Because I was embarrassed. Because the principal greeted me. Because Marissa was smiling like everything was set. Because I told myself it would create more discomfort to question it." I almost smiled at the familiarity of that excuse. Discomfort has protected many wrong things. Graham said, "That is not a defense." "No. I have written to Principal Haskins and asked that any future school materials refer only to the Whitmore Fund, not to any personal relationship with Lily unless she approves it." "That's good." "I also told Marissa I will not be used that way again." I looked at him. How did she take that? Badly. For the first time, there was a small, tired humor in his face. She is not accustomed to losing control of a narrative. "No," I said. "She is not." He touched the envelope. "I am sorry, Harold. Not for sitting in a better chair. That sounds too small. I am sorry for allowing myself to become a polished substitute for a man who had done the real work." I did not know what to do with that sentence. Some apologies are too late but still matter. "Thank you," I said. He nodded. Then he added, "If Lily still wants me in her life, I will be there honestly. If she does not, I will accept that. That's between you and Lily." "I know." He stood to leave. At the door, he paused. "I envy you," he said. That surprised me. "What?" He looked toward the street. "Not the pain. The history. The ordinary proof. I have checks, photographs from banquets, letters on nice paper. You have 1,000 mornings. I did not answer. He left quietly. After that, the family shifted in small, awkward ways. Brian started coming by on Sundays. Not every Sunday, but enough that I knew he was trying. Sometimes he brought cinnamon rolls. Sometimes he asked about the house before asking for anything else. Once he sat on the porch for an hour and told me he had started correcting people when they called Graham Lily's grandfather. What do you say? I asked. He looked embarrassed. I say Lily has a grandfather. That was enough for that day. Marissa came once in person, without a tote bag and without polished sentences. She stood on my porch wearing jeans and a sweater, looking younger than I had ever seen her. I told Lily, she said. What? That I wrote those applications. That I used Graham's name because I thought it would help. That I told myself you wouldn't care because you never seemed to want credit. And she asked me if I ever wondered whether you didn't ask for credit because you thought love wasn't supposed to need it. I looked at the porch rail. She asks good questions. She does. Marissa's eyes filled. I am sorry, Harold. Not for how it looked. For what I did. I believed part of it. Maybe all of it. Belief does not require immediate closeness. Thank you, I said. She waited, perhaps for more. I did not give it. Lily came by the Friday after Graham visited. She wore jeans and an old Ashford High t-shirt, and her hair was in a braid. She looked younger without the graduation makeup, more like the girl who used to sit at my kitchen counter doing homework while I burned grilled cheese. Ray said you still have something for me, she said. Ray talks too much. He does. But he said this was important. I picked up my keys. Come on. We drove to the garage in my truck. Lily sat beside me, quiet, watching the road. When we passed the old elementary school, she said, I remember you picking me up there. I should hope so. I only did it about 1,000 times. I remember you always parked under the sycamore tree. It had shade. And because I could find you. I glanced at her. She looked out the window. Even when I didn't know who else was coming, I knew where your truck would be. I kept my eyes on the road. At the garage, Ray was pretending to organize sockets, which meant he had been waiting. The Honda sat in the center bay, uncovered, clean, modest, and ready. A blue ribbon was tied around the steering wheel because Ray is sentimental in ways he denies. Lily stopped walking. No, she whispered. Yes, I said. Grandpa. It's not new. I don't care. The paint is fading on the roof. I don't care. The glove compartment rattles if you hit potholes too fast. I don't care. The air conditioner works now, but I make no promises about August. She covered her mouth and laughed through tears. Ray tossed me a look that said, give her the key before I die of old age. I took out the little white box. The bow was still on it. Lily held it like it might break. I was going to give it to you after dinner, I said. On graduation night. Her face changed. I'm sorry. Don't apologize for what you didn't do. She opened the box. The key lay inside with the compass keychain. Oh my God, she said softly. You kept it. You told me every old driver needed treasure. You are treasure. Don't get dramatic in Ray's garage. He'll start charging admission. Ray snorted from behind the tool chest. Lily hugged me. Not quick. Not polite. She held on like she had on my porch. When she finally pulled back, I opened the driver's door. Start it up. Let's see if she still complains on cold mornings. It's June. She likes to prepare. Lily slid into the driver's seat. I sat beside her. Ray leaned through the window and gave her instructions she did not need. Brake before reverse. Mirrors first. Don't trust your grandfather's directions after dark because he thinks every road still looks like 1992. Lies, I said. Experience, Ray said. The engine turned over with a small cough, then settled. Lily put both hands on the wheel and cried again, but quietly this time. She opened the glove compartment and found the notebook. Roads I Know. She read the first page. Her thumb moved over my handwriting. You made me a map. Not a map. Notes. Grandpa. What? I have GPS. GPS doesn't tell you which gas station has clean bathrooms. She laughed. That laugh did something to my chest I cannot explain. It reminded me that pain is not the only thing that echoes. We drove out of the garage lot with Ray standing in the bay door, arms crossed, pretending not to beam. Lily drove carefully, too carefully, like someone taking a road test. We headed out past the school, past the cemetery, past Miller's Pond. The afternoon sun flashed through the trees. The Honda's engine hummed. The glove compartment rattled once over a bump. Told you, I said. I like it. You like a rattle? It sounds like proof. I smiled. We drove Route 12, the old bus route. At the railroad tracks, she slowed exactly right. You remember, I said. Of course I remember. Most kids forget. I'm not most kids. No. She glanced at me. Are you going to forgive Dad? I looked out at the fields. I'm going to let him show me who he is now. That sounds like a slow yes. It's a careful maybe. She nodded. What about Marissa? I don't know. She's trying. I know. She's also still mad. I know that too. She said she thought making the family look stable was protecting me. What do you think? Lily drove a little farther before answering. I think she protected an image and called it me. I let that sit. Then I said, that's a hard thing to understand at 18. It's a hard thing to live at 18. Yes. We passed the curve where, years ago, Lily had asked me why people died if everybody loved them so much. She was 9, small in the passenger seat, Claire's funeral flowers still wilting at home. I had not known what to say then. I still don't. Some roads stay dark no matter how many times you drive them. At the next stop sign, Lily said, I used to think you were quiet because nothing hurt you. I looked at her. What do you think now? I think you were quiet because you were trying not to hand your hurt to me. I did not answer. She turned left. The sun lit the side of her face. She looked like Claire in that moment, but also like herself, which is what every child deserves, to carry love without becoming a memorial. When we got back to my house, Brian's car was not there. Marissa's messages were not waiting. No one stood in the driveway with a speech. Real life rarely arranges clean scenes. Lily parked in front of my porch. You want to come in? I asked. In a minute. She reached into her bag and pulled out the seat card. I stared at it. Your dad gave that to me. I know. I asked if I could see it. The card had been folded once. Grandfather. Graham Whitmore. Lily held it between us. I hate this thing, she said. It's just paper. No, it isn't. I looked at it for a long time. Then I took it from her. For days I had thought I might keep it. Put it in a box with the hospital bracelet and the video link and all the other proof that I had not imagined the hurt. But sitting there in the Honda with Lily beside me, I realized I did not need that card to remember what happened. Some objects are evidence until they become weight. I opened the car door and stepped out. There was a small trash bag hanging from the side of my porch railing because I had been pulling weeds that morning. I folded the card once more, not carefully, and dropped it in. Lily watched. "That's it?" she asked. "That's it. You don't want to save it?" "No." "Why?" I looked at the Honda, at the porch, at the road beyond my house. "Because it has the wrong name on it." She smiled through tears. We went inside after that. I made iced tea. She sat at the kitchen table and added a note to the first page of the Roads I Know notebook. I did not ask what she wrote until she left. That evening, after she drove away in the Honda, after I stood on the porch listening to that little rattle fade down the street, I opened the notebook because I am old, not saintly. Under my title, she had written, "Roads We Know." Then beneath that, "Some people get you there before anyone knows you're going." I put the notebook back in the glove compartment the next time she visited. In August, the college send-off arrived. Marissa wanted a picnic. Lily agreed on the condition that nobody makes speeches without asking her first. Brian laughed when she said that, then realized she was serious and stopped laughing. They held it at the town park, under the pavilion near the baseball fields. It was a strange little gathering. Brian brought sandwiches. Marissa brought fruit arranged like a magazine photo. Graham brought a check inside a card and, to his credit, handed it to Lily privately instead of turning it into a moment. Ray brought a tire pressure gauge and told Lily it was more useful than most advice. I brought oatmeal cookies and a small toolbox. For a while, it almost felt normal. Not the old normal. That was gone. But a new kind, still stiff at the edges. At one point, I found myself standing beside Graham near the cooler. He cleared his throat. "I saved you the chair near the shade," he said. It was awkward. It was also something. "Thank you," I said. He nodded. "I should have asked more questions," he said. "Yes." He looked at me, surprised perhaps that I did not soften it. Then he nodded again. "Yes," he said. "I should have." Across the pavilion, Lily was laughing with Ray. Brian was watching her with a face I had not seen in years, a face stripped of schedule and worry. Marissa stood alone near the picnic table, twisting a napkin in her hand. After a minute, she walked over to me. "Harold," she said. "Marissa. I know this isn't repaired." "No. I know you don't owe me comfort." That was new. I looked at her. She continued, "I wanted Lily's story to be clean because mine never was. That was selfish. I told myself it was protection because that sounded better." The park noise moved around us. Children shouting near the swings. A dog barking. The crack of a baseball bat from the field. "I can understand that," I said. "And still be hurt by it." She nodded. "I know." We stood there in a silence that did not ask to be filled. Then Lily called, "Grandpa, Ray is telling me to keep jumper cables in the trunk like I'm driving across Alaska." "You should keep jumper cables in the trunk," I called back. Ray shouted, "Thank you." Lily rolled her eyes. The morning Lily left for college, she picked me up. That was her idea. I waited on the porch with a small bag of tools, a tire gauge, a roll of quarters for laundromats, and a box of oatmeal cookies because long drives require cookies no matter what nutritionists say. She pulled up at 7 sharp, the Honda washed, the compass keychain swinging. Brian and Marissa came separately to say goodbye. There were hugs. Tears. A little awkwardness. No speeches. Before Lily got in, she handed me an envelope. "What's this?" "Open it later. People keep giving me instructions." "Because you need them." She kissed my cheek and got into the driver's seat. I sat beside her for the first stretch, just to the edge of town. Brian and Marissa followed behind in their SUV with the dorm boxes. At the last gas station before the highway, Lily pulled over. "This is where you switch with Dad?" I asked. "No. This is where you get coffee and pretend you're not crying." "I am not crying. Grandpa." "Fine. I'm leaking history." She laughed and hugged me over the center console. "Thank you for getting me here," she whispered. I closed my eyes. "You drove the last part yourself." "Only because you taught me the turns." I got out at the gas station. Brian picked me up there after Lily pulled onto the highway ahead of them. I watched the Honda merge, small and steady, until it became just another car moving toward a life I could not map fully. That is what raising someone means, I suppose. You spend years learning every dangerous curve, every flooded road, every place to slow down. Then one day they drive beyond what you know, and your job is not to chase them. Your job is to trust that what you taught them will speak when you are not in the passenger seat. Back home, I opened Lily's envelope. Inside was a photo from graduation night. Not the cropped one. Not the polished donor wall picture. This one had been taken by someone in the courtyard when Lily pulled me into the family photo. My smile was bad. Brian looked strained. Marissa looked like she was calculating damage. Graham was half out of frame. But Lily was holding my arm with both hands. On the back she had written, "My grandfather." No other word needed. I put it on the fridge under the 4th grade magnet. A few weeks later, I found the old seat card in the porch trash bag while cleaning up weeds. It had been rained on, bent, the ink running at the edges. For a second I thought about taking it out. Not to save it. Just to look one more time at the thing that had started all of this. Then the wind shifted, and the bag rustled against the railing. I tied it closed and carried it to the bin. That afternoon I signed up at the community center to drive seniors to medical appointments on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The woman at the desk asked if I had experience driving. I laughed so hard she looked startled. "Yes," I said. "A little." On my first Tuesday, I drove Mrs. Alvarez to dialysis, Mr. Green to the eye doctor, and a retired teacher named Bonnie to the pharmacy. Bonnie asked why a man my age wanted to spend his free time waiting in parking lots. I thought about Lily. About Route 12. About that wrong card folded in the trash. About all the years I had mistaken being useful for being seen, and all the years I had still been right to show up. Because waiting is only wasted time, I told her, when nobody comes back. She looked at me for a long second, then nodded like that answer made sense. Maybe it did. That evening, Lily called from college. She had gotten lost on the way to a used bookstore and ended up near a lake. "GPS betrayed me," she said. "GPS does that." "Did you panic?" "No." "Good. I heard your voice in my head." "What did it say?" "Scary roads are easier when somebody knows every turn." I smiled into the quiet kitchen. "And did you know the turn?" "No," she said. "But I knew I could figure it out." After we hung up, I stood by the fridge and looked at the two photos. 4th grade Lily in a paper crown. Graduation Lily holding my arm. Outside, the streetlights came on one by one. Somewhere down the block, a car door shut. The evening smelled like cut grass and rain warming on pavement. For years, I thought I needed my family to give me back the seat they had taken. I don't anymore. A seat is just a place someone else can assign. The road is different. The road remembers who drove it.